Talking Paranormal.
All right, so this week I am joined by Molly from Monday Mail Time Slot on Paranormal Activity with Yvette Fielding, which is a hell of a mouthful. Welcome, Molly.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great. So can you just describe to anyone who is Molly?
I'm like the person behind the scenes in the shadows. I'm the producer of Paranormal Activity. I came up with the idea, write all the scripts, do all the edits, and anything on social media, that's me as well. So I'm just the shadow behind the scenes, really.
Yeah, I came across you on Anytime podcast. That's when
Yes.
Is that when you joined, or were you behind the scenes before?
When Paranormal started, Anytime they wanted a bit of help, so they came over and asked for help for us as well. So I'm sort of spread across the whole Yvette podcast network at the minute.
Yeah. So yeah, you get all the listener stories in for one thing, and that sounds like a mammoth task in itself.
Yeah, the amount of listener stories, that it's amazing what we get. It goes from like the usual ghost stuff, people's investigations like yourself, all the way to like UFOs. People have seen black dogs and things like that. It's just we can't. I'd love to just pull every episode and put a load in, but it's just we'd be here for years. I think we get that much through.
Yeah. So how do you work it then? Do you pick a topic, or do you just like a story and say, "Oh, I like that. I'll do that one."
Yeah, it sort of depends. So sometimes, because I'll set on recordings with Yvette, and at the end of the recording, we'll both be like, "Oh, have you seen anything that's going on?" Or I'll say, "Oh, so one listener got in touch with a story about what was it recently? I think the Longdendale bombers coming up soon. It might be tomorrow actually." And there was a listener who got in touch about, "Oh, I want to hear more about this." They've spoken about black-eyed children. Sometimes it's just things like if, say, there's an event coming up, say if it's the solstice or something like that, we'll try and tie things in there. Yeah, it sort of depends. It's a mix between chatting with Yvette, just seeing what's about, and listening to our listeners really and what they want to hear.
Yeah. So have you personally got a favourite topic when you're reading the stories?
For me, it's normally just like classic hauntings I like.
Yeah.
And more when we first started it, we wanted to put the listener sort of as the forefront, because I feel like everybody has either got a ghost story or they know somebody who does. Sadly, I don't have a ghost story, but I know a lot of people who do. And it's always those ones for me where a couple of people have seen the same thing, or somebody has seen something and not realized they've seen something, and then thinking back, they're like, "Oh my God, yeah, that doesn't make sense." I love those sort of things.
Well, the thing is, when you're dealing with the paranormal and you're immersed in it, I think that it does open you up. It's like you're turning your receptors onto it. So it's kind of, I'm interested that you haven't had an experience yet, because you're beaming out the signal that I am thinking about ghosts now. Yeah.
Well, when we did the live event in Crewe that we've just done, a little pilot, as soon as nothing happened before, but as soon as Yvette and Carl came, the knocking started again. It was coming from all around the place, and that's probably the first time that I heard like footsteps and things in the back. So I haven't seen anything or witnessed anything on my own, but that was sort of the first incident.
And do you think you'd be scared if you saw something or witnessed something?
Depends where. I always, if it was at night at the end of my bed or something like that, I wouldn't be up for that. But say I did come on an investigation, I'd be all for it, because sort of you're in the zone then, aren't you? Rather than being caught off guard.
So have you been on many investigations, or?
Not really, only a handful. I went on some when I was younger in Bordell Wooden Castle in Wales. North Wales, I think, and I think that I can't remember any others. There's been like the odd one in just like little pubs, little country pubs, but I can't remember the name of them to save my life. But yeah, only a handful. I don't think I could even count on my hand.
You've not been on that many lives, but presumably you get the opportunity to, if you wanted. Have you not got time or?
It's more cause well, we're hoping, and you can feature this. We're hoping, fingers crossed, touch wood, that we will start touring out with Paranormal Live, and we can get a lot more investigations under our belt on the podcast side of things.
Yeah.
I've been invited to some Most Haunted Lives, but I haven't had the chance to go up because I'm based in London and Yvette's all the way up in Cheshire, isn't she? So
yeah,
it's just more of a getting there.
Yeah, I've investigated with the Most Haunted Experience and stuff about 4 times, so I've met the whole crew.
Where did you go?
Wentworth Woodhouse, Hack Green Bunker, St Helens Barracks. I'm trying to think where the other one was. There you go. Like you say, it's hard to remember. Yeah, it's not going to come to me. But I've done it about 4 times, and I met Glenn recently at Leeds Kirkstall Abbey House. So met him up.
Nosy, Hack Green, because that's one near my home. So I've been in a couple times, and I hate it. The vibe is just awful when you go in. Did you experience anything there?
Not a great deal. It was fairly. I think I've been twice actually. Now I think of it, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But yeah, it quite flat for me. I'm out of it because I've been doing it like 12 years, and when you get a lot of people like that, it's not the ideal situation for a good investigation. You've got 40 people around you. You don't know what is real and what isn't. But yeah, it's a great location. I would love to take my team, but we're not into the it's not a business, it's not money making, so I can't afford to just hire it out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
So yeah, Molly, you surprised me and my team one morning by I sit down before work and I'm what's the latest episode about, and I see my name and it was almost like I was dreaming. I was like, what's this about? This I must be seeing things, and then I play it and I'm like, I sent this in ages ago.
Yeah.
I was over the moon, Molly. It was fantastic.
I was over the moon when I got the email. We had it sort of in the bank for, I had it in my pocket for a while, and then I managed to get a couple of the team, and I was like, right, guys, we've got to sit down and we've got to make this, really make it come to life. So we all sat down and we were just going through it, bouncing off each other. It's just gives you the creeps, and I not a worry, but I'm always like, oh my god, if we start talking about who was it Ursula?
Yeah.
Who was the
and Sam,
that was it. Sam was the horrible one, wasn't he?
He was.
I was like, oh god, if we keep talking about him, what if he's gonna come manifest or something like that? But were you able, did you moved her on in the end?
We moved her on, and that's why Sam was mad. And we've been back since. We went back this October, and the most remarkable thing happened was that we actually are friends with Sam now, and because the years in between, he always came through wherever we were opening a board up, like miles away from York, and he's like, hey, it's Sam, and being sweary at us and saying, don't come back to my house. And I'm like, how are you here wherever we go? And so he just became so special and came to our homes and proved he was watching us. And he would freak you out at home. And then the next time you were on a board, we'd say, tell me if that was you. And he'd tell you exactly what he did, where he was, what he tried to do. And we were like, you're scary, but you're amazing. And then in York, on the second time, he actually got some attachments off us that we didn't really know we had. And it was a really big thing. But now him and this other lovely spirit called Ruth, who were tussling at the beginning because he was a bit negative and she was nice, they both stand with us now. And that's the next phase of our investigations. Amazing.
Oh, that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But when I say it out loud, it sounds the stuff of bonkers, you know what I mean? But that is just how the story played out, you know?
That's from foe to friend. That's
Yeah.
lovely, I think.
Yeah, I think we misunderstood him. We know. Why would he be any different if we go to his house, move on the person who he thought he owned? Who are we to barge in and change things, you know?
Yeah.
And think we're all righteous and yeah, we're doing the right thing. And he's like, no, you know.
Yeah.
So you could sort of understand it. And we went back and apologized, and we haven't had anything since this new friendship. So we don't know what's going to entail, you know, what's going to come up from
Yeah.
this. But he certainly seemed to help us out the last time we were there.
What a
So
little angel.
very weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you into like UFOs or anything else? Is there anything, any of the stories you've read you've thought, oh, that's interesting?
More for me, it's just ghost stories.
Yeah.
I know my nan's, it all started really with my nan's house, because I don't think anyone was there before her. I don't know what is going on there, but it's been blessed and things like that. Still activity happening. It's just, I could keep going on things that's happened there. My mum's seen like a soldier going down the hall. My granddad's seen a man and told him to F off, and then he disappeared.
Yeah, good.
I guess yeah, furniture come in flying about. I never experienced any of it, so I don't know. You know, as a kid hanging around there, I don't know why, because you kids sort of are more susceptible to these sort of things, aren't they? So I don't know why I've never experienced anything, or something's there protecting. But still, things are happening there even now. Like they woke up. What was it? The smoke alarm went off. And my nan and granddad sleep in separate bedrooms because they both snore and they both can't sleep with each other.
Yeah.
But the smoke alarm went off, and it's so like 2 bedrooms and a big corridor. And my granddad came out of his bedroom, checked, smoke all in the corridor. He went to grab the pole to turn off the smoke alarm, which is in my nan's room, walked in to my nan's room, grabbed the pole, walked back out, and there was no smoke. There was nothing. So it's just, I don't know, just weird things happening there. There was another one recently as well. Yeah, like my nan's purse will fly off this. You can't sit on this certain seat because things get thrown off it. And I think I mentioned this one on the podcast, but there's like a window. There's a sofa facing a window and seats with your back against the window. And my mum had her back against the window and my nan was facing it, just having a chat. And you could see, if someone walks past the window, you can see their shadow in front of you. So my mum saw the shadow and was like, oh, who's that? Who's that coming around? And my nan turned around and just went, don't worry about it. It's nobody. It's nobody. So I think my nan doesn't, well, my nan knows more than she's telling us, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I'd love to pick her brain and find out what's actually, if there is more activity going on and things like that. But I think she's keeping it hush hush. I don't know if she's scared or I don't know. Spooky though.
With the chair, then, we've had similar things like that. We had a window in a house that was always open, and nobody could figure out why. And when we brought the board in there and talked to the spirit, it was the previous tenant who just always likes that bit of air in. Who just all like, this window should be open. And since I still live here alongside you, stop closing it. That's all I ask. You keep the window open. And this compromise was brought on. Like, okay, we'll put something in that window in memory of you, and like a totem or some flowers or whatever. And that things really calm down. It's weird how they just want some item. So maybe that chair or the position of the chair.
Yeah, that corner's always cold where it is anyway. So I don't know if, that's their corner or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's weird. So is it an old house or?
I think it was only built in like the 30s or the 20s or something like that. So not massively old. And yeah, they've been there, God, since it must be like 50 years they've been there. So it's just weird.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an old house anyway. I mean, we've met spirits on the night that they've died, and we've met old ones. You know, it's like every range. So yeah, that's interesting. So you've not been to Yvette's haunted house?
Not yet, no.
No.
But like my home isn't close to her is close to her house, so it'll only be a matter of time.
Yeah.
But every time I end up going home, it's like Christmas time or some really busy period where there's no chance. But we did meet at an old hall which is haunted. We didn't see anything, but we met there for a cup of tea.
Yeah, because Yvette does her little seances, doesn't she?
Yeah.
That.
A little seance shed. Yeah, I'd love to go in there. Like the story she said, she's had reporters and stuff in there, and like their mums come through, and these reporters and cameramen are in tears. I think she said there was another time there was a host there and nothing really happened. Then the host left and the cameramen just had to pick up like last shots and establishing shots and things like that. And then I can't remember what it was, but something happened and the cameramen were so scared, but it didn't air because the host wasn't in the shot. So it's all sort of been lost, which is such a shame.
Yeah, that's the problem if you get some good activity, but yeah, you can't use it. And obviously you've got to drop some activity for the time slot of the shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That must be terrible. But I know Carl was saying that he gets a college or a university to do his reviewing, because that's what I asked him when I met him. I was thinking, do you guys actually have to sit through the hours of footage you've collected? And he's like, oh no, I found it out.
Oh, I didn't even know they did that. No, I didn't know.
Yeah, because as I'm reviewing my stuff, I'm like, I wonder if they must have like 4 or 5 cameras that they have to sit through, and then all the audio of the mics in case they catch some EVPs.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, not my problem.
That's,
you know.
God, during that, when we did the live event at Crew Lyceum, we had an EVP running the whole time. I had to listen through to like 2 hours worth, but it's just, you've got to do it though, because what if you have come across something?
Yeah. I know I'm quite controlling, you know, sometimes the team are like, oh, do you want to share some of that reviewing, which is very nice, but I'm like, no, because you might miss something. I need to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Yeah. So we haven't seen much of Stuart. What's Stuart up to from the team?
Well, I've heard that Stuart is what does he do as a job? He's a truck driver, I think. So his hours are very all over the place. I've been trying to get him for the podcast, but he is the hardest man in the world to track down.
Yeah.
Even like I've got his number and it just keep ringing and ringing. So
yeah,
he's just a hard man to get pinned down.
Yeah. He was very nice to us in person when we met him. He was showing us a burn on his arm that I'd seen on the show. And, you know, questioning him about it, and he's showing us, I'm like, that is genuine. You know, you could tell from talking to him. I was like, yeah, that obviously was amazing, but it did happen.
I couldn't be, him and Carl are just little buggers, aren't they? Antagonizing spirits. Come on then.
Yeah.
So no wonder they've got all scars and things over them. I'd be too scared for doing any of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in the gang now, Molly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's here. You know, you're going to be front and centre.
Most haunted, the next generation or something like that.
I mean, it's fantastic that you've got your own little Monday slot, isn't it?
Yeah, we were looking to sort of, because like I said before, we get the amount of listener things that we get through that will, like, I can put them all in a bank, but we'd be waiting for ages. I just want to get them out so everybody can hear them because they're so good. And that just seemed like the most logical way to do it. I can just read through a load in here and do a bit of research on where they might have been from and things like that, or anything that sort of Yvette said or seen that relates. And then get them out so everyone can hear them. And I think because they're only little segments, it's just manageable. You know, you can listen wherever. It'll only take 5 minutes.
So do you do it like week to week then, pretty much, or have you got some banked?
It depends. Like, so this last behind the scenes, last month, Yvette I think she was writing her book.
Yeah.
So she said, and we had a live show. So she was like, can we just put some in the bank? It all depends on dates. If things are going on, like we'll put some in the bank over Christmas, but we tend to do it a week in advance. Because a lot of the content's sort of evergreen anyway. It's not like we're talking about, I don't know, something in the news or something really topical. So we're quite lucky, really.
Yeah, I mean, it must take quite a lot of juggling everybody if you're doing all that work yourself for it.
Yeah, it's just finding, we've got sort of a set time when we all record on a Thursday, and it's just trying to fit everybody into that. But because we've got the set thing, it works pretty well.
Yeah. So you must have some good figures.
Yes.
Has it really grown? Because I hit it from the ground the start, but I'm sure you're big numbers now.
Yeah, we've grown. It must be like by 20,000 as of the last sort of 6 months we've grown by, which is crazy to even think about. Seeing as like we've only, God, when did we start? I think we started last year. So to only be just over a year's worth of setting it out, we're really made up with like the support we get. Even I keep bringing it back to the listener stories, but the amount of listener engagement we get, it's amazing. It's just, it's the sort of the driving force that keeps you going still.
Yeah. Well, I sort of use your dramatizations that you did as a little bit of a quick calling card. It's like, listen to this. This was like actors of us doing our story. Bizarre, were they friends of yours or something?
They work in the office with us, so they're like audio people too, doing their own sort of podcasts, but all audio. Oh, blah, 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 can't speak. Audio lovers.
Yeah. So, what's your background then? Are you, how did you get into producing and stuff?
So I went to uni and did media production there, which was sort of a bit of everything. Always was making like silly YouTube videos as a kid and just little silly things. And we got a taste to do film, TV, all that sort of thing at uni. But it was radio and audio that I was sort of set on. Yeah. So then I was doing like student radio and stuff, doing stuff for local radio. Did my master's in radio and then got a job at Create afterwards. I was working on Fun Kids Radio, which is the national radio station for children, which is a bit of a turn then to paranormal, but like I'm sure everyone who listens to the podcast and I'll be listening to this watch Most Haunted when it was first out and things like that. I used to be hiding behind the back of the sofa watching it, but it's always been paranormal things have always been on my radar and something that has been a massive interest to me. So this was sort of the first. We were pitching ideas for new podcasts, and I just said, look, you must know somebody who has a ghost story, or you yourself has one. Why don't we do something to do with paranormal things or ghosts? It's such true crime, such a massive genre in podcasts and things anyway. It'll either flop or it'll do really well because it's such a niche market. And we were looking for hosts, and of course, Yvette, the queen of paranormal, came up as like our number one. And then we got in touch, and she said that she'd be really up for it, really down for it, and the rest is history. Here we are. So I dropped a lot of my other work that I was doing audio-wise for the company and sort of took on paranormal as the base. And never looked back.
Landed on your feet for sure, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, and absolutely loving it.
So in the paranormal field then, is there anything that you're a bit doubtful of? What's your opinions on the investigation techniques or equipment?
I think, I'm still slightly doubtful. Not doubtful. What's the word? What was that? Sorry.
Questioning, maybe.
Questioning, yeah. I'm still slightly questioning of Ouija boards.
Okay.
Just because I don't know whether it's a subconscious thing as well. I don't know. I haven't, but like I said, I haven't done many investigations. I think I've only done like a handful again of Ouija boards. EVP, I think, is really strong. Is it ghost boxes? Where it sounds like a radio going.
Yeah, spirit box, yeah.
That's it, spirit boxes. I'm not too sure on that.
Yeah.
But I'm big on, I think one of the big ones, I don't know whether it was Yvette who used it or there's or someone else I've seen, but they had a toy dog and the dog's eyes lit up when something was near and they were like, oh, stroke the dog and the eyes lit up. I thought that was really good because I don't know, if the sensor's going off for no reason.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. But anything that involves a person getting involved, I guess, like channeling through somebody, like a Ouija board where you've got to move it, then that's where I'm a bit questioning. But
yeah,
overall,
absolutely right. I totally agree. You see, I used a Ouija board from the start because it seemed like the shortest road to finding out if ghosts were real, which is why I got into it. I'm watching Most Haunted. I've watched years and years since a kid before that. And obviously, by 2011, you know, Most Haunted's been going a while. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to actually go and do this myself now. I finally thought I'm going to go and show that it's, as you say, it's just the humans. That was my angle.
Yeah.
And it didn't go to plan. You know, I ended up, I loved it anyway, but I was like, I'm not being able, because whatever obstacle I put in the way, like put your fingernails on the glass and it would still move. And I'm like, well, you can't, it slips on the glass, you know, or twist under our fingers and such like that. But I have discovered that if you put a deck of cards on the planchette, the top card always moves first. So I will say that it must be us subliminally moving it without realizing it. But it's the next hurdle where the evidence is when we're finding out information that can be verified that we simply didn't know. So it's like the spirits are influencing us to talk to us. You know, if I was going to say that, I'm going to make a point, but it's we've found like lost keys. We've found being directed to books in the random house, and even though we're technically moving it, we're seem to be being guided. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say blindfold Ouija board we've done. And so I've been like, everybody wear a blindfold, and I will watch, and I will put a colour in front of each of you. With blindfolds off, I'll say, spirit, go to the red square, and they'll go to the red, and the blue, and the yellow, and that's all 100%. So then I'll blindfold everybody, and I'll switch all the colours up. And I'll say, okay, spirit, you can still see it. So take it to the blue, and it might get 50%, but that's just chance, isn't it? So it'd get them pretty much wrong. And I'd be determining that they still need our eyes, which is a real skeptical nightmare of, you know what I mean? So I'm having to try and push through that. I'm saying, okay, one person out of 4 doesn't have a blindfold on. And I would say to that team member, look at one of the colours that the others don't know, and you do not have your finger on the glass. Okay, so you're like, okay, she's thinking, go to the blue in her head, and the glass would still go to the blue colour.
Oh.
And it's like, even though she had her hands off, and the blindfold people were being led to the correct colours, you know? So even thinking, oh yeah, but you're just pushing it, that isn't where the study is. It's the study's past that. That's all I would put in your corner to think about.
What was it? There was something Yvette said, it just reminded me of it. She said, say you get through to someone on a Ouija board and you want to, they say they're one person, but they might not be. Say it was your nan that came through or something like that. Yvette would say, think of the wrong answer to the question in your head because they can read what you're thinking as well, which just made me think of, if you need one person with blindfold off, is that how they're,
So
Strange,
it's
isn't it?
absolutely right. Yeah, I often, or as a team, will be asking a question, and just as you've said, how something it goes to the answer, and you're like, oh right. So you already knew what I was going to say before the team knew. So yeah, it can be very tricky, but I just find it the most fascinating area because I'll say to the team on the board, or well, to the spirit, but the team can hear. I'll say, I'm going to write a letter on a board over there. I want you to come and read it, spirit, and then just have the team say what the letter is. Now, in order to get the team out of the equation, because they're all thinking, what letter is Chris going to write? I'll write a number. Even though I said, I'm like, well, if the spirit comes over here, it'll go, he wrote a number. So I'm going to push the planchette to number 9 or whatever. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take the team out of the equation. So they're like, I thought you said you were going to write a letter. And I'm like, yes, to your ears. That's what I said.
That's so smart. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope, because that'd be amazing. I do a lot of fingers behind my back. I'll say how many fingers am I holding up, and the spirit gets it right, and I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah, how?
You know what I mean? I mean, the first few times I'm thinking, okay, good guess. But when you do it so often, it's like, that's weird. And also, we've said, go to our house number, go to our homes and tell us what house number we live at. I know we are all in a team, but I don't remember who lives at what number. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of the time there's a pause. I mean, the board just goes completely flat, and you're like, they've gone. And then a few seconds later, it's moved to a number, and everyone's like, yep, that's my house number.
Oh, do you think they've gone to the house then come back?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And it also, if you get a spirit that doesn't want to give you its name, and yet one does, I'll say to the spirit that does, I'll say, can you tell me what their name is? Oh, yeah, it's Bill. And it's like,
Bill's
hey. Yeah. Why did you? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's why I find the Ouija board fascinating.
No, I've never seen that side of it though, I guess, as well. So
do you get evidence sent to you? Do you get like EVPs or anything like that?
sadly, no. We've been calling out for people to send in their EVPs, but we haven't had any through. But if we have any EVPs you want to send through, I'd be happy to put it on.
We don't get many EVPs. And I, like you said, I recorded the whole thing on a Tascam, a decent recorder, because the audio's separate from the camera. And you know what? I'm starting to think, well, our teammate Lucy, she said, on TV, have you noticed you always use that really crappy sort of dictaphone? It's all...
Yeah.
And she goes, maybe we're using too good an equipment. And I have some cheapy, crappy ones. So that's my next phase as well. I'm going to do EVP bursts rather than... I'll record the whole night on my good stuff, but I'll actually physically go, right, now we're going to have a 2-minute EVP session.
And just call out for...
Yeah. But also sound, Molly, doesn't work the same on an investigation, because you will hear footsteps in the room and they're not on the recording.
Yeah.
And also vice versa. Obviously, in EVP, you don't hear anything, but you hear weird stuff on the recording. So trying to catch it is bonkers.
I wonder if you use went proper old school, like analog, and use sort of like a tape recorder or something like that. I wonder if that'd give different results.
But the only thing is, you pick up the whirring of the cassette, and there's the tape. Everything's flawed, Molly. Everything you try and do is, you're touching it. You're, and like you say, I tried to debunk the whole SLS Stickman camera, because the Stickman is there because that's its job, to show a Stickman. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so how do you know what's real? It's a problem.
Yeah. What do you... Sorry. There we go. What do you think to those? I don't even know what they're called. It's like lights. It's like what the Xbox Kinect has to bring,
That's you mean the grid? Yeah, the SL. It's called the SLS camera.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
And that is the Kinect from an Xbox. And when you actually look into reading, how does the Kinect camera work, right?
Mm.
And it'll say that if it can't find the human in front of it, it will eventually just put a human on there.
Oh.
Because otherwise it's not doing its job, is it?
Yeah.
And it will do that, and it will try and find any shadow or any something, an object in your room that will vaguely do an upright shape, and it'll just plant it there. That's why you see him doing that, don't you?
Yeah, dancing around.
When you stand in front of it T-posing, and it's got you, it's a solid T-pose. If ever it's doing that, it's not working right.
Yeah.
So,
Debunked.
But everybody goes, I mean, I've met so many investigators who don't know how their equipment works, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say, what is that then? Oh, it detects spirits. And like Carl will say, oh, it doesn't. He's like, you know, we don't know that they do. We don't know what a spirit is. So how can you design something that detects spirits? We don't know what they're made of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all the apps and stuff like that. I'm like, well, load of rubbish. I can't.
Oh, I was the same, but I'll tell you this. Yeah, the cheap, because you run out of ideas and you think, oh, what the hell? And I'm always having a go at these apps. Let's try one. So we'd try them, and the word we were spelling on the Ouija board would come through the app.
Oh.
And it's like, but how does it at the same time? I know I could be pushing Jennifer, but how do I make Jennifer come through on a crappy app?
Yeah.
You know, and there was more. They had a good evening where the whole story made sense eventually. You know,
just through the app.
Well, yeah, we always using them in tandem with the Ouija board because we're all about the board.
Yeah.
But you'll be having a conversation, and it will answer you on the app and the board, and it's like, even if the app is just a random, stupid word bank that will just say words for the fun of it, they seem to be able to influence it, just like they influence torches or whatever.
That's like it's too much of a coincidence, isn't it, if it matches up?
Yeah.
Often.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously it takes years to keep trying, and every investigation is like a set of data points that you eventually see a pattern. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I'm just like most investigators, very skeptical to start with.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's see what we can do with this, you know?
Yeah, keep pushing it.
Yeah.
That's the way, though. I guess.
What's the plans for? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say that's the way. I think you should start skeptical until seeing is believing, as Yvette says.
Yeah. So what's the plans for the podcast? Any? So you're going to go more lives around the country?
Yeah, that's the big plan at the minute. We're just sort of sorting things out, and with it coming up to Christmas, it's a bit mental at the minute. But that's our plan. Hopefully next year we'll start touring round. Fingers crossed, and just keep on giving people lovely episodes that they enjoy. I'm hoping getting some more guests on. We'd love to I know we spoke to Paul O'Grady early on, but we'd love to have more celebs on and things like that if they've got stories, more investigators like yourself on, and to sort of, I think the main aim, me and Yvette were talking about it, and I think the main aim for us is to make it a proper hub for all things paranormal. So, you know, White House investigations are here this week, and this is what they found, and I don't know, so and so from Kent might come in and tell us their findings, just because sometimes I feel, especially like with the amount of paranormal teams, I don't find you see it as much in the local teams and things like that, but in the big shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters International, it just feels like everybody's clashing, whereas we should all just, if this is something we all believe in and that, you know, the evidence is there, why aren't we all bringing it together to show everybody, ghost, you know, this is happening, this is real. So that's the aim, really, to bring everyone together in a little hub.
Well, that's why I actually started this second channel. The Talking Paranormal channel is secondary to our team page. And like you say, I'm just bringing in podcasters and whoever. We have Dave Schrader on. I've got Shari
Yeah.
Benedetti from Taps and stuff coming on in February. You know, it's just like, yeah, we talk about para unity, but I wrote out like what I sent you. I wrote 10 years of write-ups, thinking if anyone else goes to that location, they can read my write-up and hopefully meet the same spirits or not, and it'll be interesting. But I tell you, every team I have reached out to, they're really cagey. They don't want to share what they've got, you know.
It's silly, isn't it? Because you know we're all in the same boat at the end of the day, and we all want to prove the same thing.
Yeah, so hopefully you and I both trying to make a community, but no, won't be just us. Hopefully that's the next revolution where we're all like, do you know what? Let's pool our resources. Because I want to do a Ouija board with another team somewhere else in the country, and I want to see if I can pass the spirit from my board to theirs.
Yeah.
You know, because ever since Sam came through, not in his York location, I'm like, they can just travel like that. So let's play with that.
It's like Yvette and her dad. He's everywhere. Like he'll come down to London with her. He'll be like you said, they just travel. They can travel like that.
Yeah. I was talking to Yvette and she always we tried this thing about copper wire. She made us try it a few times. We basically weren't holding the glass. We were just holding copper wire looped around the glass. And Yvette swears that she had it move. So we'll keep trying it on and off. But that would be great to have the glass move without us touching it, you know? Yeah,
I guess that just eliminates one more, you know.
Yeah, one more step, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
No words.
Yeah. Well, Molly, I'm so glad we finally got you on.
Yes, I'm so glad to have joined. It's been great. Great little chat.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
And we'll have to get you on a paranormal activity, like you, not just your write-up, but you and maybe the team as well onto a paranormal activity episode.
Let's hope.
Yes.
Thank you, Molly.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.